Welcome back to the channel. Why do we grind off the heel on our wood turning tools when we're sharpening? As you can see, this bowl gouge, I have ground the heel off, and you hear a lot of woodworkers doing that. And what's the purpose of grinding that heel off? So I wanted to try to explain it. So if we have a bowl here, an inside bowl, if I've got a bevel, this is like my bevel, you can see here that whenever I'm cutting with the tip, that the heel is going to be hitting back here. You can see that, right? So I've got another piece, and I'm going to stop the video, but I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to grind this heel off. Okay, so I have ground the heel off. So you can see the difference. This is what the bevel would look like. And when you grind it off, it's like this. So the bevel now is really only about that big. And so when we come in on an inside curve, and the sharper the curve, the more this matters. But you can see here how you can follow a contour, a radius, easier and have bevel support to where you don't have the tip hitting and the heel hitting like way back, okay? But when you are cutting, the sharpest cut would be if you've got this flute turned 90 degrees, okay? And so you are slicing with the tip as you come through like this. And so that would be like this bevel coming in like this, okay? Now, even right here in this sharp corner, which is where a lot of people struggle, it's because you're making a sharp turn right there, and it's hard to get bevel support because it is exactly, you can't see it, but it looks exactly like that in the corner where I'm hitting on the heel and the tip, okay? Now, when you take the tool, so that's the sharpest cut if you have this turned 90 degrees. Now, if I turn it up a little bit, if I open this flute up, now that has changed the angle that I'm actually, the radius there, and it allows me to get some bevel support even in this sharp turn. But what you sacrifice with bevel support inside that sharp turn is that you now have opened the flute up and you're doing a kind of a slicing and a peeling cut. You're not slicing immediately before you are peeling. So your finish is not going to be quite as good, because if you can take and keep your flute turned at 90 degrees and take a small cut all the way, that is going to be the smoothest finish. That's the one you want, where you're not going to get any end-grain tear out and you're going to have minimal sanding. If you can make one continuous pass, a light pass with this flute closed almost 90 degrees, that's how you get the best finish. But sometimes we have to open that flute up. And the reason is because it helps us to get bevel support here, a little bit better bevel support, okay? Now the bottoming gouges, they help with this. This is my 40/40 grind, and you can tell it's about 1/4 inch bevel. But that 1/4 inch, I showed you this big one just so you can see, even with 1/4 inch, you would have the heel hitting and the tip hitting. It's going to be over 1/4 inch. So when we grind this down to where it's more like 1/8 inch, it just gives a lot more user friendliness to be able to ride the bevel and follow that in and have bevel support. And then just a slight turn opening that will even allow it to go even better. Now in those sharp curves down at the bottom, a lot of times we grab that bottom feeder, what they call a bottom feeder gouge. And this bevel is more, it's cut more this way instead of this way. It's cut more this way. Hopefully you can see that. So my bowl gouge, I don't have the degrees, but my bowl gouge is like this, and my bottom feeder gouge is more like that. Now, what is the disadvantage of grinding this heel off of your tools? Well, the disadvantage is if you are making long, straight cuts The bigger your bevel, the more support you have and the easier it is to make those like planing cuts. So what's the disadvantage of grinding this bevel down and not having a big bevel and having a tiny bevel? What's the disadvantage? Well, if you're making like on a cut like this, if you are trying to, we normally don't use bowl gouges on spindle turning, but let's just say you're wanting to make a cut in a straight line, you're not making a lot of curves, that bigger bevel allows you to have a bigger surface to just just helps make that easier to follow. Whereas if you have a small bevel, your tendency is to come in and out and almost make this, I'm exaggerating, but make it like a curvy road instead of just a real straight plane. So the bigger the bevel, like this 40/40 grind, that bigger bevel will ride behind the cutting edge a lot better, in my opinion. It just makes it easier to ride that bevel. But if you are following contours, getting this bevel out of the way and having a small bevel allows you to make turns and allows you to ride the smaller bevel and have contact the whole way instead of having this big bevel and contacting at the very tip and the heel and like not having bevel support in between. That's the way I look at it. So try it out. If you haven't tried grinding the heel off of your bowl gouges, give it a try. Give it a try and see how you like that. Make that a smaller bevel. Play with it and you'll find some preferences that you might have. Does this have to be perfect? No, I don't even put this on a jig. I sharpen my bowl gouge using the Varigrind jig, which I've got a series on that. But then to get the heel off, I just hold it on the 180 grit or the roughest grip grinding wheel that you have, and I just grind it off, just eyeball it, because it doesn't really matter. All you're doing is removing material there. So just don't hit the cutting edge and you'll be fine. Hope that helps.